Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's good with y'all boys?
What's good? Glad to be back.
Yep, definitely glad to be back. Another great week in the NFL, another great week in the NBA. We finally saw Cleveland get knocked from the unranks, get knocked from the undefeateds last night, going against the defending world champions in the Boston Celtics. Obviously, it feels like every single week we were saying the same things where we got breaking news about the Jets. But we've got breaking news about the Jets. They have fired their GM this past week, and we'll get into that a little bit. But before we get into that, let's get into the games that happened last week. Obviously, we saw, and speaking about the Cavs getting knocked from the undefeateds, we saw the Kansas City Chiefs get knocked from the undefeated. We saw, obviously, my hot seat pick last week, Lamar Jackson, fall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw Chris's hot seat pick and the 49ers fall to the Seahawks. We saw Cass's hot seat pick get dominated by the Broncos and Bo Nix. Man, what a week we had. What was you guys' biggest takeaways and why?
I guess for me, talking about the defending champs, Kansas City. I mean, we've been seeing it all year. They just haven't been looking good as far as offensively go. Their defense has been playing, pretty well this whole entire year. But yeah, man. I mean, it was like, they've been asking for it the past few weeks. I mean, they've been asking to lose a game the past few weeks. They just ran into the Buffalo Bills, which Buffalo do tend to beat them in the regular season. So it'll be interesting to see if they match up with each other in playoffs, possibly or whatnot. But that's one of my biggest tastes outside of a lot of selling going on. But yeah,
for sure. We've seen kind of all year that Kansas City is beatable. It's just people haven't done it. People do play them scary. They make different decisions they wouldn't make normally. Of course, they should have lost last week, but is what it is. So I wasn't super shocked. I did pick Kansas City to win that game, but I wasn't super shocked at how it went down. Josh Allen, man, on a 4th and 2 to take off and just score. It's not too many quarterbacks that can do that in this league, man. So you just got to sit there and just clap your hand and tip your caps to it, honestly.
Yeah, and it was a great game, between the two of them. Obviously, a part of Kansas City that, we keep saying that they have looked beatable is also the play of Patrick Mahomes. And that kind of continued. They did get a really good drive out of him, when they needed it in the end, or I guess towards the end. But for the most part, he had a pick very early on that was very ugly. Obviously, he had a pick to end the game, which, the game was over anyway. Missed the throw to Xavier Worthy. That's a lot of people have been talking about. Where it initially looked like it might have been Xavier Worthy's fault, but Patrick kind of hung it when he didn't need to. But really, we had that was a great game. But I honestly feel like the game of the week was that Sunday night game. You got the Chargers going against the Bengals. We did see some missed field goals, but Justin Herbert was putting on a show. Joe Burrow obviously started to put on a show in the back half of the game when they were mounting that comeback. What did you guys think of that one?
It was good to see them fight for it. After that first half, it was looking bleak. I'm not gonna lie, but again, like we've seen all season with this offense, it doesn't take much to get them going. And when they are clicking, it's hard to stop them. And that's kind of what you saw until like the very end of the game, the last couple of drives by the Bengals, where the Chargers kind of locked up and kept them to like longer field goals, I guess you could say. Still makeable, which obviously he didn't make, but longer field goals. And then they were able to go down and kind of ice the game from there. But it was good to see from a Chargers defense to kind of like, even though they had a rough third quarter, first half of that fourth quarter, they were able to like bow up, and do what they need to do to win that game towards the end. And that's what you want to see from a Chargers team that's, again, coached by Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, and kind of how they've been playing all season. So shout out to the Chargers, man. They're looking good week in and week out. And they got a big test next week for sure.
Definitely got a big test.
For me, the Bengals. Where do you go from here? I mean,
Yeah.
you losing these tough games, and it's not a lack of trying as far as the offense, but your defense is not good. And then you also dealing with the fact that T Higgins finally came back, but it's probably his last year here. Chase is already trying to get his contract. He still ain't got one, and it's just like as an organization, as a coach, Zach Taylor, like what do you do? What are you supposed to do? You kind of hamstrung. You can't really make any changes because at this point your offense is going to do what it does, but your defense is just leaking oil. It's just not going to be able to stop anybody. So it's like you're in a tough spot for them, and that's what I take from it.
And it also appeared that their who we thought was their best corner, because DJ Turner ended up playing pretty well this past weekend, but Cam Taylor-Britt, the guy that's kind of been talking all season, it appeared he got benched for a lot of that game until they kind of started dropping like flies. I think DJ Turner ended up leaving with a shoulder or concussion. I can't remember which one it was, but I didn't think the Bengals were going to be good this year either anyway. So, it's not a much of a surprise. One thing that I did see find that was kind of a surprise is, reading some, you have people reacting on Twitter and stuff like that. But from Scott Kazmar on X or Twitter, whatever the fuck you want to call it, Joe Burrow has not had a single game-winning drive or go-ahead touchdown in the past 2 years. For all the things that we say about what he's doing offensively, that's kind of glaring. And, obviously they had a couple of opportunities last week, but, we can say that they missed field goals, but why were you kicking so long with field goals? You had that opportunity. So that is something to kind of continue to monitor. Even a more funny one, Jake Browning, who was his backup in Cincinnati and has not played a game this year, has 2 more game-winning drives than Joe Burrow since last year. So,
Joe Burrow's supposed to be this. He's touted as this clutch guy. I even heard on FS1 yesterday. I think I'm like clutch. I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, it is interesting.
It's hard to like sit here and completely bash somebody because, and not that I'm looking to bash anybody. Obviously, he's been playing well, but that is a part of the box score watching as well. And when you say like, even when we all agree that the defense is trash, but when the defense does give you opportunities like they did multiple times against the Chargers, that's when you're supposed to pull through. And obviously they were playing a lot of catch up, which also has to do with the offense as well. But that is something that we, to monitor as we go along for the rest of the year. And as we get into next year, because there might have to be some, I've said it at the beginning of the year and I've been saying it a little bit, throughout the year, is might have to be some revisions on how people view and talk about Joe Burrow, because he gets more credit for losing a Super Bowl than the guy that actually won the Super Bowl, outplayed him. It's at some point we got to start having that conversation about that. But aside from that, there was also news, another team that I feel like we're always constantly talking about in terms of in negative light, the Chicago Bears, giving up a Hail Mary, firing their offensive coordinator. Now you have the reverse of what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs, and you get your field goal blocked to end the game. How did you guys feel that Caleb looked this past week? And, do you think that Eberflus should keep his job, moving forward? How do y'all feel about that situation in Chicago?
He played better. He's still a rookie. That's the thing about it is, I just feel like he had just way too much hype coming in. He's a rookie. He's supposed to have. It's going to be ebbs and flows. It's going to be ups and downs throughout the season. So it's not so much of him. It's just, I guess, the overall whelming. Like, just people are just put him all the way up on high on a pedestal. So I don't really take not much from the play in general. Eberflus, I feel like he's getting off because he's not really the offensive coordinator, so that ain't his forte or his issue. He's really more on the defensive side, and the defense they've been playing pretty good throughout as far as the entirety of the season packed in one. They did have a few games where they had some issues, but as far as him and what his specialty is, I can't really say. I mean, I don't know. They probably will fire him eventually because they probably more likely get a more offensive minded person in there. So yeah, he gonna get fired. Fuck that.
Yeah, and I think that's. I think this is this last season there. I just think the writing's on the wall there. That team is just not following their way. Caleb did play better. He used his legs a lot more down the field instead of running side to side and back behind the field, behind the line of scrimmage. He only had 3 sacks, which is honestly a very good step up for him. But 70 yards on the ground, like I know there's like quotes where he's saying that he don't want to use his legs, and he only want to do it when he has to. But that is an extra dynamic that you have to, like, he's not slow. You know what I mean? So I mean, he knows he's good at picking lanes. He knows when to take off sometimes. So I think you just got to keep it like riding with it. I know you want to protect your asset. You want to tell him not to run. But any kind of way to introduce that dynamic, especially when the pass game is not being as crisp as it needs to be, is welcome, honestly. And I think he should continue to use his legs when he can. But other than that, like, I don't know, the Packers keep winning, but I don't know. It's just not looking good for the Packers. I understand that they're 7-3, but I think the process is just bad for them right now. Whether it's Jordan Love's play, whether it's I know their defense is being opportunistic with the turnovers and all that stuff, but I don't know. It's just something about the Packers every week where I'm just like, they played pretty bad, honestly, or not as well as they should play, but they keep winning. So I think that's the biggest takeaway I have from that game is that the Packers just keep trucking along, but I think this is one where it comes back to bite them later on.
But yeah, Flus is like you said, the writing is on the wall for him. While the offense isn't necessarily his expertise, he had to know coming into this season, you had an opportunity. This was your shot. This was your year to get the team right. Even if you're not necessarily in the playoffs, at least having the outlook of the team, pointing upwards or pointing forwards, however you want to go about it. And I think that, the number one thing was nailing the offensive coordinator. And if Caleb is this guy that's supposed to be super hype, you would think that everybody, any good OC or somebody that's a play caller would be jumping at the chance, the opportunity. And you got a guy that just got let go from his previous job. So, and then you fire him mid-season, and then, once again, as we talked about last week and we've talked about prior, you saw some of the reactions from some of the guys that were with him before. So and you hearing how, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen is being a vet. He hasn't necessarily saying too much, but you can kind of see that they have said some things about how things were being operated from the jump, even back into training camp. And that's your job. You're a head coach. You're supposed to oversee that. That is what you're supposed, the whole operation in terms of the organization as a whole, you're the face of that. And between yourself and the quarterback and obviously nobody's going to blame Caleb Williams. Like Chris said, he is a rookie. So with the face of the franchise, that's you. And it's looking like it's in disarray. You fired multiple offensive coordinators. I think at that point, the writing is on the wall. And, unfortunately, the writing on the wall also probably means that's probably going to be his last shot at being a head coach as well. So, but it will be interesting to see how, the outlook of the rest of the team. But since we've been talking about firings and stuff like that, let's go ahead and get into it. Joe Douglas getting fired from the New York Jets. Obviously, that goes along with essentially, well, number one, we got Robert Saleh getting fired earlier in the season. Nat Hackett basically got fired as well. He's still on staff, but obviously he was relieved of duties for the play caller. So, it's kind of, three people that have gotten their heads cut off basically from the New York Jets organization. How do you guys feel about that? And I mean, what else is there to talk about there?
I mean, for me, it's more so it's a lesson for everybody out there, every GM out there. Like you can't they allow. I mean, I understand. If your argument for Joe Douglas, he clearly hasn't picked a good quarterback or whatever. Zach Wilson, all that extra shit. But I mean, you allow Aaron Rodgers to come there and basically destroy your franchise. I mean, you allow him to come in there, bring over Nat Hackett, bring over all the old players he used to play with, just because of his past experience. And I mean, to be honest, outside of the Super Bowl, he has struggled in the playoffs in general. But because of what he has done in the past, you allowed him to have more power than he needed to have. And so, like, now you lost your job, and that's one of the things where it's just like, for me, as a up and coming GM or anything like that, you have to take that kind of shit into consideration, because at the end of the day, the players you bring in and how the team's successful, it falls on you just like it falls on the head coach. And so, tough situation for him, but I mean, that team is in disarray. It was writings on the wall for that shit too. I mean, you fire your coach, what was it, 4 or 5 games in the season, like, and apparently it wasn't on the GM, the owner did it. So the owner, the one who ultimately made that decision on Robert Saleh, you had to know your shit was next.
Yeah,
shit tough.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Like when you say like upcoming GMs got to know, you also got to know who you're working under. And the reports that have come out about Woody Johnson and his meddling that he's done. Of course, we don't know what all is true. Mm-hmm. We probably will never know. But the Athletic article is pretty damning, to say the least. They basically stripped away all of Joe Douglas's like decision making and power pretty much this whole season. And I understand like he's on the last year of his contract. And he probably wasn't coming back regardless, but I think it's so tough to work under an owner like that just meddles and wants to do things and again, bad process. Like this is something that's not necessarily his expertise, but he's sitting there making all these decisions, overruling you, with you doing things that you necessarily wouldn't agree with. And it's tough to work under a person like that. I understand it's New York Jets, so they probably will find somebody. Obviously, it's the NFL; they'll find somebody that wants that job. But it's very tough to work under those conditions. So I don't know. The most surprising thing, of course, we could talk about this too, is how that quote that came out, or I don't know if it's a quote, but the rumors came out saying that Woody Johnson was going to bench wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers, and he kind of got talked out of it after like the 4th week or whatever. Again, if you're a head coach going into this situation or a GM going into this situation, like I want to have, control over this. I don't want to be just overruled and just do whatever the fuck the owner wants to do. So, I mean, I think it's really bleak going forward for the organization, which it already has been. But yeah, I don't like meddling owners like that. That shit is whack.
It is tough it is definitely tough. And the thing about it is it's tough to, when we talk about meddling owners, like we really have to take a step back and think about this for a second. What exactly is a meddling owner? Because we all say, I said that about the Colts. We've said it. We're talking about the Jets, and we talked. People will say that about multiple different situations and different across all sports. Mm-hmm. Well, the Jets are ass. So is he meddling? Is he meddling? Is that meddling? At the end of the day, like you've been here for 5-6 years. What you sold us a dream. You sold me a dream, telling me that you were. I mean, and in Joe Douglas's defense, he did put together a talented team, but with that being said, there is rumor, or not rumors, in that Athletic article, they did mention that Hassan Reddick actually did warn them before he went there that his agents warned them that you need to sign him to a contract before he comes over there. and it was said that Joe Douglas thought he could get him into the building and they could take care of the contract later. So stuff like that is still on you, and that's still decision making. Now they did say that the Devontae Adams stuff seemingly came more from Woody Johnson, but it's also like, well, and that's also kind of where things are a little weird. Well, if you wanted to bench Rodgers, then why the hell are you going to get Devontae Adams? Like, I know Devontae Adams is good, but
maybe he thinks
that's
the only way Aaron can be better.
And then there was also stuff about the owner Woody Johnson, or whatever the fuck he wants to be called, chairman or ambassador. You don't get no respect from me, nigga. I don't know you, Woody Johnson. So that it did say that he kind of reads into social media and kind of follows that. So maybe that did lead to a little bit too, because there are people that came at Robert Saleh. Obviously, people come at Aaron Rodgers every second of the day and every second of the hour, and rightfully so, given some of the things that he said and how he's carried himself. But I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I think the meddling is more the in season stuff that's going. I'm not a fan of doing all this stuff in season. Do whatever you want after the season. You knew what you had going into the season. I think you should just ride with it. It's never a good thing to sit there and fire your coach 5 games and fire your GM halfway through. You got to deal with this shit. Ride that shit out in the off season. Make wholesale changes if you want to as an owner. Of course, you have that. You have that right. I get that, but I think it's the in season stuff more to me that I don't like. Like as far as like meddling goes, is that I don't like. 'Cause I don't think that amounts to anything good ever. Honestly, a lot of times.
Funny enough for Aaron, he came from an organization that didn't have a true owner either. So I'm sure. And true. What do you guys? So one thing, listening to everybody kind of react to it, across the sports world, nobody ever brought up. Should we revisit everybody saying Aaron Rodgers was running the organization? Because how do you bench somebody that wanted to run the organization? Should we be revisiting that, or like is that just fucking Aaron Rodgers?
That's on the rug. That's on the rug.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, seriously, if you're telling me that the owner wanted to bench this guy, then how the hell is he running the organization?
Well, I feel like that comes from. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, ain't nobody trying to sign Ain't nobody trying to sign no Alan Lazard. Ain't nobody want no damn Nat Hackett. That's where that's coming from, in my opinion. I don't think that was owner related. I think that was Aaron Rodgers asking for what he wants.
Maybe. Alan Lazard.
That's where I'm at with it. As far as him running the organization, it's just the people that he brought over is literally Aaron Rodgers-esque. Like the reason why Nat Hackett was in Denver was supposedly Aaron Rodgers. They were trying to get Aaron Rodgers. And so he went to Jets, and now he's coming. After getting fired from Denver, he's coming over there. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I get it. But still, I mean, it's just interesting. Nobody has like broached that subject or like brought it up or said anything about it, because for so long everybody was saying, "Oh, he got Robert Saleh fired." Well, shit. If I was saying to bench him a week prior, then how the fuck did I get him fired? I don't know. But with that being said, I guess that gives us a perfect segue into Hot Seat Watch, since we've basically seen everybody that possibly could have been on Hot Seat Watch over there get off the hot seat. But as I said at the top of the show, basically every single person that we talked about in Hot Seat Watch, well, not basically, every entity that we talked about last week on Hot Seat Watch folded. So I'm interested to see what you guys got this week and why.
I got the Houston Texans on Hot Seat Watch. Lately, their offense have not been flowing well. Like lately, they have been in games where they shouldn't have been in. Even this past week, the scoreboard, they blew them out. But it was times in that game where had Dallas had some competent quarterback play, they should have lost that game. Like CJ Stroud has not been looking very well, and to drop even though they're 7-4, the Colts, they're trying to y'all trying to do a little something. Y'all brought y'all quarterback back, so y'all got some games ahead, but so do they. So I mean, the rest of their schedule is not really that weak. They still have to play the Ravens, they still have to play the Chiefs, And right now, Miami, they're looking a little better, especially with Tua coming back. So they got some tough games ahead of them. So they need a dominant win against a divisional opponent. I mean, Tennessee, their offense is not good, but their defense is very good. So they got some tough games coming up. So I got them on hot seat watch.
Yeah, they did not look great against after that first quarter. Dallas had opportunities.
They really could have. Yeah, they
That's why I was saying
lost
with
that
a
game.
better, competent quarterback play, they probably would have won the game. But
which I still don't understand why they didn't give Trey Lance a shot. But now they're saying they're giving him a package. We'll see. Whatever the fuck that means.
Dallas, man. Oh gosh. Luckily the Falcons have a bye week this week. Because I would have revisited that. Well, I'm not gonna lie. That was a very disappointing performance last week. We didn't talk about it too much. Bo Nix looked very good in that game. And a lot of people are putting him in Offensive Rookie of the Year conversations now. Of course, he had a damn good game, but I also think that was a product of terrible defense that was played against him. But because of that, I'm going to go Jaden Daniels on the hot seat watch for Rookie of the Year. Of course, this is lukewarm watch. Like, nothing's wrong with Jaden Daniels. Of course, he's going to have a long career or whatever. But Rookie of the Year was all but wrapped up. As of 3 weeks ago, like everybody was like, "Oh, it's Jaden Daniels," and then he stopped using his legs. They stopped being as prolific on offense. Of course, they had that stretch of 4 weeks or 3 weeks where they barely punted like a couple times. 2 games where they didn't punt at all. The offense isn't clicking right now. Can they find it? We'll see. Of course, they're going up against a Cowboys team this weekend where they might be scrappy. I don't know. It is a divisional game. I understand you got Cooper Rush, maybe Trey Lance at quarterback, but it's still a divisional game, still a big game for where they want to get to, or where we think they want to get to this season as an organization for the Commanders. But Jaden Daniels, you got to show, I think you have to use your legs. I understand that you might be hurt, but that's what makes you different. That's what makes you special. And we all knew that going into the season. We all knew that around draft time. We've been talking about it. So if you're not using your legs, then because in that game last week against the Eagles, he was under pressure. I get it, but he was dirting a lot of throws. He threw a lot of throws low. Just sit back in the pocket, and a lot of free rushers. No rushers coming towards him. He's just sitting there dirting it. I don't understand. Like the whole tempo was just off. So. Got to see more from Jaden Daniels going forward. I understand he's a rookie. It is what it is. But just comparing him to what he's been earlier in this season, you got if you want to win that Rookie of the Year, which is a good, award to get, you got to show back up.
They say it's that Cliff Kingsbury wall.
They say second half of the season Cliff Kingsbury falls off, and yeah.
Maybe Cliff. What do they say? Maybe Cliff Kingsbury is the one that's been playing Call of Duty. It's not But we also talked about it earlier in the season. When that offense starts to open up a little bit more, I felt that Jalen Daniels would struggle a little bit, and the offense in terms of the passing offense has had to open up a little bit more due to him getting hurt like the first play of the game a couple weeks back and hurting his ribs, and they're saying that they're trying to give indication that he's still not healthy completely, but, if he's not, then why did you rush him back instead of letting Marcus Mariota play? But, it is what it is. We'll see how that goes moving forward, and it probably shouldn't be a quarterback, Brock Bowers is arguably the best tight end in the league right now as a rookie. So
honestly, he's killing it. He's killing it, man.
So, on my hot seat watch, it was between a coach and a quarterback, both the New York guys, but I'm rocking with Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, obviously, we didn't talk about it, but Daniel Jones has officially been benched. Not something that I guess would be super surprising, but I think what is more surprising is Tommy DeVito, or whatever the fuck they're calling him, Tommy Cutlets, whatever that Italian shit. I don't know what the fuck it is. I'm obviously not Italian. So, he's going to get the start over Drew Lock. And now all the floodgates is opening. There's already been some reports of, and some people are speculating that it's Darius Slayton, who does seemingly always talk about some shit, is saying that they think it's bullshit that Daniel Jones is being benched. They think it's bullshit the reasoning that they're giving for why he's being benched, as opposed to saying that it's his play, as opposed to what it really is contractually. Because how does he go from QB1 to
QB4
possibly
now?
QB4? And you picked up somebody this week, and you're putting him over him, so you're really shutting him down. And kind of like what I said earlier is with the Bears is your quarterback and your head coach are supposed to be the face of the franchise. Well, you bench the quarterback, and now you're supposed to be the stabilizer. There's also been reports that I just saw right before we hopped on. Supposedly Joe Shane, however the fuck you say his name, is not well liked in the locker room. Where could that possibly be coming from? Brian Daboll trying to save his job, maybe. You're putting it all on. You're supposed to be an offensive guru, putting it all on Daniel Jones for why they score 13 points a game. Very struggle offensively in general. That is supposed to be. I'm not saying that Brian Daboll is a bad coach. I'm not saying that he is the one that's putting this stuff out. But you are supposed to be that stabilizer. You are the person that everybody's coming out and saying, "Hey, Brian Daboll's," there. It's seeming like everybody in the media is trying to be like, Brian Daboll deserves to still be there. Brian Daboll is a great coach. Brian Daboll, blah, blah, blah. Where are they getting that from? Why are they pushing that agenda so hard? Brian Daboll, I got you on the hot seat because if Tommy DeVito is supposed to be just like we saw with some other quarterbacks, if they give you the best chance to win, we better see some results. So, tough game coming up this week. Gotta produce.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
tough game and a team coming in that's getting healthy, trying to fight for a playoff position. You can be playoff spoiler. You need to fight for a job. Brian Daboll, I got you on the hot seat.
What's your take on them? Because of course, this is floated out. There's no basis behind it, but it is interesting of them starting Tommy over Drew Lock to kind of a pseudo tank. What's your take on the tanking anyway? But just pseudo tanking, starting like a lesser. I think Drew Lock is better than Tommy DeVito. I think he can control offense better. We saw Tommy DeVito have games where he barely even threw a game where he didn't throw the ball at all in the second half, I think last year or something like that. It was something crazy like that. What's your take on that? As far as like, okay, let's just, lose some games here.
I mean, in my opinion, personally, maybe. I think tanking is a lot harder than people. Like, it's easy to say you want to tank. The Colts literally hired Jeff Saturday as their head coach and still were the fourth overall worst team in the league. So it's incredibly hard to tank. It's incredibly hard to tank. And it took the Texans on the final play of the game getting a pick to seal the game. It's just it's very hard to tank in this league. And so I also, in my opinion, I'm not gonna lie, and I've been thinking about this probably over the last year or so. The in a weird way, I want to say the football gods, but teams get rewarded for going about it the right way, in my opinion. The Chiefs got rewarded for going about it the right way. The Bills got rewarded for going about it the right way. The Ravens got rewarded for going about it the right way. The Bengals were just ass and lucked into Joe Burrow, but the Chargers weren't tanking, and that's how they ended up with Justin Herbert. They just had a bad season. Obviously, they got rid of Phillip Rivers that season, and they knew it was an opportunity to get a quarterback in that draft. Same thing, the Dolphins, same thing, if you want to say that they were rewarded, but I just feel like, we're number one, we're seeing better results in terms of the quarterbacks. I feel like panning out on teams that are more put together than we are seeing with these teams that are rebuilding, quote unquote, or those tanking teams, because you're taking number one, in my opinion, which is another thing. I don't understand why teams feel like, we don't have enough talent, or we don't think we have enough talent, so we're not going to put enough talent around them to get better. Like, how does your quarterback get it? Your young quarterback, let's say the Patriots, for instance, how does your young quarterback get better playing against a bunch of bums in practice? Like, what is that? How does that help? I don't see how that helps. Maybe there's some that they talk about in the front office, and just because I'm an outsider, I just don't understand it. But I don't see exactly how that helps. Do you not think that Patrick Mahomes had, it benefited him to see a Steve Spagnuolo defense filled with Justin Houston and Tamba Ali and whoever the fuck else, Marcus Peters, on that team? You don't think that possibly helped him? The Buffalo Bills, they were a playoff team before they got Josh Allen. You don't think that possibly helped him? So I that tanking shit, I don't know. It doesn't.
And another thing, it's risky. It's risky behavior. I mean, shit. You tanking, you might get fired anyways. Like, I'm like, you might want to, put your best foot forward, put your best product out there so you can, possibly get another job somewhere. But you tanking, then you get fired. You helping the organization when they just let your ass go. So shit kind of risky, at least for him anyway.
And how does that help with your evaluation of players either? Young players that you want to bring over into the next season and stuff like that. If you're, I don't know. I just think the tanking thing, it's a cool thing to say when teams are just asked because there's no other explanation for why they're asked. But, football is just also a game of margin. A bounce here, a bounce there could turn your season from starting off 5-0 to starting off 0-5. I mean, we saw the Jacksonville. It's not like they weren't competitive those first couple of games, and now they're 0-5, and they got a guy that should be on the hot seat, should be fired. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. But
what is going on there? Like, what are we doing?
Nigga.
I think Shad Khan, who's the owner, I think he just wants to keep continuity the entire season, see how it plays out, and then fire them at the end of the season. But like you said, I mean, it doesn't. How do you what really is it helping having a skeleton crew in your coaching staff, skeleton crew possibly in your front office, because they're doing work on the college scout, the college athletes and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
I don't understand, so how does that help? But I don't know. But let's go ahead and get into the picks for the week. Let's get a recap of last week and we'll go ahead and get into it.
All right. Last week, pretty good week for the two of you. You have 5 out of 6, right? The only one that you two had the same exact picks. So the only one you got wrong was a Baltimore pick, of course, against Pittsburgh.
Well, I thought Shy picked no, I thought I picked the Chiefs to beat the Buffalo Bills. Did I not?
No, you picked Buffalo.
Oh, never mind.
I
know Shy did. No, I thought we picked something different, but yeah.
I was the only one that picked KC, of course. I also picked Atlanta. I also picked Cincinnati. So I only got three
Wait,
right last
I didn't
week.
pick Cincinnati?
You picked the Chargers.
What the fuck? Anyway.
Yeah, did you look into this? Obviously, you looked into it.
I did, because I swear I thought
So total on the season, I'm at 37. Chris, you're in the lead at 43. Shy caught up to me. He's at 36. So here we go. Here we go.
Let's go. We'll get into the Thursday night game. Pittsburgh coming off of a big win against the Baltimore Ravens. An ugly win, but big win. Cleveland. Yeah. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Who you guys got on Thursday Night Football? Why?
I got Pittsburgh, but honestly, to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if Cleveland pull up an upset. I mean, it is a division opponent, but man, Cleveland is not. It's just not a good team right now. There's nothing good happening with them boys. But I'm gonna go ahead and roll with the Steelers. I think they that defense is still gonna keep doing their thing, and I don't think Russ is gonna do anything to put the ball in harm's way. It might be another field goal game for them niggas.
It's been getting a little murky the last couple weeks with Russ.
I don't know what the fuck Brown got going on, but it might be another field goal game for them boys. But I got the Steelers though.
Which is wild. It's been 2 games this year, I think, maybe 3, where
all they the first game field goals in this past game.
Yeah, all they scored is field goals in one. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, speaking of walking down, the Browns got walked down by the Saints last week. We didn't talk about that game, of course, but the beginning of that game was closer. They had a couple of turnovers early in that game, but you just really saw just no no cohesion with the team, no fight really. It got really ugly very quickly, and I think that Browns team, I don't see them winning a game this season again. I know anything happened with Jameis Winston. Of course, we saw it in that first game, in that game that he started. We had that big play at the end to seal it, but it's a bad like. And that's the thing too. Like most of the team is back from last year. That's the crazy part about it. Like a lot of that team is back, and then you got Nick Chubb back too. But it's just the vibes. It's just bad right now for that team. So I don't see them winning. I got Pittsburgh in this one, even though it is on the road, even though it is divisional. But again, I'm not as confident in Russ not making the bonehead play. I've seen 3 weeks in a row now where he's just done some dumb shit. We saw the big one last week that they really could have lost from, but the Ravens couldn't fucking move the ball at all. Throwing that pick in the end zone when all you needed was a field goal to make it a 8-point game, which had Arthur Smith doing the "What are you doing again?" that gave me flashbacks. But I got Pittsburgh this one on the road.
Yeah, I got Pittsburgh as well. Browns are a dead team walking. They just need some new blood in terms of new quarterback, new head coach, probably, even though he's not a bad head coach, and new GM, even though he's not a bad GM either. It probably just needs a new voice. Everything is stale. Pittsburgh, I do think it's going to be a very close game. Maybe with Pittsburgh even winning with a game-winning field goal. It's supposed to be some bad weather as well, so probably a low-scoring game similar to that Ravens Pittsburgh game, and probably finish in a similar fashion. But don't really have too much else to add. Both teams. It's amazing that Pittsburgh has a record that they have, considering they have not looked excellent. Well, there's probably a couple games, those first couple rough starts, where they looked really good.
8-2 is impressive though, super impressive. And then of course Mike Tomlin has the opportunity tomorrow, I guess, to make it however many straight seasons it is with a winning record. Just ridiculous. So yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah,
and good for him. But getting into the next game, Detroit at Indianapolis. Detroit, obviously world beaters, and it's kind of an ugly week for games. But
it is.
Detroit, obviously, I don't want to definitively say they're the best team in the league. Obviously, we've got some pretty tough candidates with Kansas City, Buffalo, the Steelers, I guess, the Ravens. But I mean, if you had to pick a best team, I mean, they've looked every bit of it. They smacked. They beat good teams. They've only lost one game thus far. Smack bad teams, and then you have Indianapolis, who have been a roller coaster at the QB position, both in terms of play, both in terms of switching quarterbacks, and really just in terms of their entire tenure, I guess, under Chris Ballard. So, who you guys got and why?
This is actually an interesting game to me.
I actually think it might be the best game of the week, by the way.
In my opinion, I might be the only one who think this, but I don't think Detroit has a good defense. I think they've just been playing like people who offense can't do shit. Like, I just really think the last few games they've been playing, the offenses they played against, like, I'm talking about Jacksonville, you played against the Texans. I don't think they've been playing against good offenses, and I think that might come to bite them. Maybe not in this game in particular, but I think there are very much big play opportunities for the Colts to make. Big shots downfield that I think that you can get on Detroit, but I'm still going to rock with Detroit. They are humming on offensively, and and it's possible Jared Goff might have a 3-4 interception game. That shit happened clearly, but I think they still stay on the roll. But I think this is going to be a very good game, a very close game at that. But I'm gonna stick with Detroit.
Yeah, I don't think Detroit's defense is like world beating. I think it's one of those things where people honestly just start playing different. Like, people get so scared of offense, and we've seen it a lot of times with prolific offensive in this league, where you start doing shit you don't normally do because you're like, okay, we got to press, we got to get this, or they coming down the field and they're scoring. I think this is a big test for the Indianapolis defense, who we you talked about Shy played well over the past, honestly, couple of months now. Huge test for that defense, actually, to kind of see where they are. Detroit been beating the shit out of people, so it's like what are you going to do? Are you going to lay down and let this ass woman happen? Or are you going to fight back? A lot of people have been laying down to Detroit this season. A lot of people have been laying down to Detroit. I got Detroit in this one, but again, like, this is huge test for Indianapolis defense. If they're able to slow this train down, the schedule is more favorable after this week. So if they get some good signs from this game, or even win it, like, it's a good outlook for that team. So it's a big game. It's a big game for sure. I got Detroit.
Yeah, it's a big game, and very interesting week coming out for both teams, because Detroit, obviously, Jacksonville went down and scored on the very first drive of the game, and then they just got railroaded from there. But coming out of that, excuse me, coming out of that, Alex Anzalone did get hurt, and it appears he might be out for the rest of the season. He was their star or starting linebacker, and has been playing really well for them. So the hits keep coming for them defensively. The Colts, we didn't talk about it too much, but obviously Anthony Richardson got back into the starting lineup last week and had the best game of his young career. What was it, on his 11th start? And more interesting stuff, once again, something that I read right before I hopped on here. Read the transcripts of the Trenches podcast with Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed, and it sounded like the Colts locker room was about to mutiny if Anthony Richardson did not get the starting lineup. So based on the transcripts,
it's crazy.
Based on the transcripts, Zaire basically said that Monday morning, that Monday after the Buffalo game, was hell, basically, from everybody in that locker room. He obviously was trying to speak in code, but it basically said that there was a conversation between the captains to somebody. I don't know who that somebody is, whether that's Fallon, whether that's Steichen, whether that's Jim Irsay, that basically was like, he needs to be in the lineup on Sunday, or it's going to get bad here, very, very, very quickly. So as I said, from that moment, that, when we talked about it, that is a very, very good sign for Anthony Richardson. Maybe not the greatest sign for the organization itself, or, in terms of their transparency with the team, however the fuck that went, whatever they want to say, they had a plan or not. But that is a very good sign for Anthony Richardson. Even better sign that he did have the best game of his career, responding to everything that's happened over the past couple of weeks. But Detroit.
Buzzsaw.
I'm rocking with the Colts. And Alex Anzalone is out. Detroit is stout, but as you guys mentioned, they do give up a lot of yardage defensively, but where they make up and why they have been a top 2 or 3 defense so far is on turnovers and bad plays. I do think that we could see a Brian Branch pick off of Anthony Richardson, but I think the Colts continue the momentum that they've had. Obviously, the team is very happy with the switch quarterback. And the Colts defense, after starting off very ass, they are 11th in the entire league for the entire season, which is a huge jump from being bottom 5, what they were. They have been creating turnovers like crazy over the past few weeks. They got 3 against Buffalo. What do they have? 2 last week as well. So I think that we see that again this week and get a couple turnovers, and Latu is humming. Him and Kwity Paye are starting to pick it up. So I'm rocking with the Colts, and I think they keep the momentum going.
That's crazy though. For you, I mean, you like to see it as your team to come together. You'd be like, "Hey, this our quarterback." But if you Joe Flacco, I don't even want to come to work no more. Y'all really just said, "Hey, get this bum out the starting lineup."
I think Joe's at that point where it's just
I know he old, so he probably don't care that much, but
and he probably went through a similar thing with Lamar Jackson as well. So that probably was pretty humbling. But if you're Anthony Richardson, everything this past week, his interviews, the way that he looked off just on the field, he looked if there is merit to him needing to maybe grow up, maybe not necessarily grow up like as a person, but just needing to log more hours in the building. If that was true, it did look to benefit him in terms of calming down his mind, calming down everything. His footwork was better. He was a lot like everything looks sometimes when he throws, it looks like he's throwing that bitch quick as hell. Like it's like,
yeah,
like get that bit. Everything just looked very calm. If that's what it's going to be looking like moving forward, it changes the math on everything in this league and in the AFC. I'm telling you. But
it does, but he can't also get discouraged. So say you go out and lose to a very damn good team, probably like you said, the best in the league. You got to stick with that process. You can't get discouraged, and you can't start pressing like I talked about.
But I feel like
other teams do.
With the team having his back, like you got it. He could play free now. I mean, I don't think he's
Hopefully.
pressing anymore. Like you got to hold your captain saying, no, this is our guy. Like going out on a limb, like Zaire freaking going out on his podcast and like basically saying like, hey, nah, like he should. You got this stuff that people go in the back for you. I feel like Shai said, like now he can play. Like he should be able to play.
I didn't share some of this stuff in our chat, but one guy, Zaire is a very outspoken person. One guy that has been consistent in his praise of Anthony Richardson, that's somebody along those lines of when he speaks, you listen, is Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson, I follow him on Instagram, and it is social media, so you can't make too much of it. Quentin Nelson don't post too much. Last week he posted Anthony Richardson multiple times. I'm just saying, and he played with Andrew Luck as well. He said on multiple occasions that Anthony Richardson is the best quarterback that he's played with and his favorite quarterback. I think that speaks volumes to his potential. And then to your point about him pressing, I think obviously it's still a lot of time and there's a lot more to be seen. I think if we were going to see it, we would have saw it in this game. The Colts were up 13-0, got up on them very quick. Then the Jets ended up coming back, going up 14-13. It ended up going back and forth, even to the point where we saw Anthony Richardson miss two-point conversions and still continue to play well. So I also thought that was huge for him as well. So it'll be interesting to see, but this would be a huge statement for him and a statement for the team as well if they can pull off the win. But we'll see.
It'll be tough.
Getting into the next game, the Niners at Green Bay. So the Niners are they're reeling at this point. Team is beat up. Even when we thought that they might be getting healthy, they might have lost Nick Bosa. Obviously George Kittle has been nicked a little bit. Green Bay keep finding ways to win. Jordan Love hasn't necessarily been great. I mean, obviously he's turned the ball over a little bit, but still over the past few weeks, they've been top. I want to say they've definitely been top 10. I want to say top 8 in terms of offensive EPA over the past few weeks. So who you guys got and why?
I mean, both teams need this. I mean, I as for Green Bay, you want to try to keep up with Detroit just in case they fall and slip by the wayside. And as for the Niners, y'all division, their division is the tightest. You have Arizona at 6-4, leading division. The rest of the teams are 5-5, in which everybody basically got tough games this week with them playing Green Bay, Seattle playing Arizona, and the Rams playing the Eagles. So they for sure need it, but they're reeling right now. So I'm gonna roll with Green Bay. Jordan Love, he has been up and down, but I think they steady the ship this game. They're at home, so I'm gonna rock with Green Bay.
I'm gonna go with San Francisco on this one. Not a whole lot of confidence in it. I think my pick kind of goes back to what I was kind of saying about Green Bay earlier and how they aren't playing the best. Of course, neither is San Francisco. But I think this is a game where the mistakes come back and haunt them. And San Francisco capitalizes on a mistake by Jordan Love or something like the mistake by the defense. So I got San Francisco in this one. Even without, they probably won't have Nick Bosa this weekend. He might try to give it a go because of the stakes, but he'll probably be limited if so. But even without him, I'm gonna go San Francisco in this one. Can they pull it out?
Yeah, so San Francisco, this is a game they're as desperate as possibly could be because this is a game that they really need in the division that's quickly slipping away from them as, the Cardinals are really overtaking it. Seattle's right there, and the Rams just keep winning games. We'll see, what they do on Sunday night. And the Packers, same thing. They've defense has slipped a little bit since the beginning of the season. Which was kind of, I don't want to say bound to happen, but I mean, when you have Xavier McKinney getting a pick every fucking game, that's not going to happen for every game. Evan Williams was a rookie and playing at the best safety in the league, basically, and that was obviously bound to go down as well. One person to watch on the defense is his name is escaping me right now, which is crazy. The Georgia linebacker that they drafted in the first round a couple years ago. He has not played well and definitely didn't play well this past week against the Bears. But I think the Packers are just a better team than the 49ers are right now. So I'm rocking with the Packers at home. And I think they win rather convincingly. I don't even know if Christian McCaffrey is all right at this point. Even though he is playing. But he has been out of football for, basically nine weeks and almost an entire year. So I don't know if Christian McCaffrey is right at this point or if that will ever get right throughout the season. So I'm rocking with the Packers.
You talking about Quay?
Yeah, Quay Walker. God damn, why couldn't I think of my boy's name? Yeah, Quay Walker, you been asked. Step it up. Boy. Come on, bro. What's up? Now, sticking in a division with the Niners, we got a divisional game between Arizona and Seattle. Huge game, honestly, for the two teams. Cardinals coming off a bye week. Seattle coming off arguably the biggest win that they've had over the past two seasons, in my opinion. Who you guys got and why?
Man, tough game. But I think Cardinals they're gonna win the game. They're gonna keep this thing rolling. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Kyler Murray. He's been steady back there, quarterback for the Cardinals, and their defense is coming together. But that's Jonathan Gannon forte, so they do need to right the ship on that a little bit. But I think they're gonna win this game, and they're gonna seize control of the division.
Yeah, I got the Cardinals winning this one too. Huge game, like you mentioned last week for Seattle. Huge game for Geno Smith. He made some big plays in that. But that team this season has just been very inconsistent. They'll have a huge game like that. They'll have a stretch of huge games and come back and lay some stinkers. And I think against this team, against an in-division game, I think they lay a stinker in this one. Even though it is at home for them, but I think Arizona's they're humming in a way. And they just present a lot of problems offensively for teams. They got Trey Benson starting to pick up now the last couple of weeks. They're coming off a bye, right? So they had the extra time as well. So I got Arizona in this one.
Yeah, and I'm also rocking with Arizona. Seattle is coming off of like I said, I think it's the biggest win that they've had over the past two seasons, just given their struggles against the 49ers, especially Geno Smith, not having beaten them at all in his career. And I think that in itself is going to kind of hurt them this week a little bit, just because I think that it was a big emotional win. We saw how happy Geno was after the game. We saw that night celebration, finally getting that dub against the 49ers, which I know he had been one. The Cardinals, as mentioned, are coming off of a bye week, been a top 10 offense the entire season. And I think that the connection between Marvin Harrison and Kyler will only get better. And then, one thing that we didn't mention, and we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but Baron Browning going over there, getting traded from the Denver Broncos. I think, obviously he got the bye week to learn a little bit more of the playbook. So we should see him get some good time on defense. And I think that we see a big Baron Browning play happen this week. And they need the pass rush. Their defense has been towards the bottom of the league. And a lot of it has to do with the lack of pass rush. So I think that he'll help out there a lot. So I'm excited. If the Cardinals would create a good bit of separation between them, depending on how these games go. So it's a big week for the NFC West. sticking in that division, we go into the Sunday night game. We got Chris's Philadelphia Eagles on prime time again versus the Los Angeles Rams, getting healthier and playing better over the past couple of weeks. Who you guys got and why?
I got the Eagles. I'm actually looking forward to this game. As far as outside of, I guess you could say maybe Cincinnati, this probably be the toughest test as far as receivers versus our revamped defensive backfield, which have been playing lights out lately. We're actually number 1 rated defense currently, but it's gonna be interesting to see how we play. This game kind of reminds me of when we played the. It's gonna be as far as when we play the Bucks, as in Baker got the ball out quick, and we didn't have much of a pass rush at that time, and we were playing a little soft as far as defensive goes. So Stafford, he's gonna they got that timing and rhythm going on for that offense. So I am looking forward to seeing how our defense handle that. But I still got us winning the game. I think our offense actually finally be a little more fluid. It's been up and down, eventually then break open the game with Saquon Barkley. But I think our offense is going to be a little more fluid this game. So I think we'll get the dub.
I'm going to go Rams here. I think, again, I'm expecting this is my game of the week shot. I think this is going to be a big back and forth kind of contest. I think it's a huge test for the young corners that you have, Chris, over at the Eagles, Quinn Young, Cooper, playing against those two workhorses in Puka and Cooper Kupp. So, but I think this comes down to the Rams defense making plays. That defensive front, week after week, we see them come up huge. Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, they make huge plays, and I think it'll be a good spot. I know y'all coming off like a mini bye, so you definitely got healthier, especially on that line. But I think the Rams just find a way to get this one done. I think they press the issue, and I think this will be a shootout. I'm expecting this one to be a good one. I got Rams at home.
So I'm also rocking with the Eagles. I actually do not think this will be a shootout. I think that a lot of people, there's going to be people that think it's going to be a shootout. But both, as Chris mentioned, Eagles defense has actually been number 1 in the league over the past month in EPA per play. Rams have been top 10. So Rams defense, as to Cass's point, has been really good. But both offenses, once again, given the some of the highlights from Saquon and some of the big plays that the Eagles have, as well as some of the big plays that the Rams have, we may think that their offenses have been humming, but both offenses have been pretty. I don't want to say bad, but mediocre,
pedestrian.
Very pedestrian. Mass with some big plays in between. The Eagles offense, I think, needs to, like Chris mentioned, needs to find a little bit more consistency, in terms of the play calling and in terms of how plays play off of each other. It still seems where it's a little bit too much like run, big shot, run, slant, run, and more than anything. And, I think that they can get a little bit better on that. And then the same thing with the Rams. It does seem like it's the same way. Run, dig over the middle, run, crosser. So it's been interesting. And then obviously the Rams offensive line has been up and down. There's been weeks, obviously they've been, in between health, but there's been weeks when they've been good, weeks where they've been, average, and weeks when they've been bad. And the Eagles, like I said, have been humming. So I think we see a little bit more of a defensive game, more probably maybe something closer to like what the Falcons and Eagles were, where it was like 2017. I don't remember what the game was, like 2022. I think it was like 22-20 or something like that.
Yeah, it's 22-21.
Yeah, I think we see something more so along those lines. But I do have Philly, putting the Rams playoff hopes on hot seat
life support.
So. But Monday night game, the Harbaugh Bowl. Ravens obviously coming off of a very tough loss, and having a lot of criticisms being thrown Lamar Jackson's way. The Chargers coming off of a game that we typically would see them lose, given the comeback that they gave up, but continuing to be resilient. Saw some big plays from Ladd McConkey and Justin Herbert, obviously. But who you guys got and why?
This was an interesting one in the sense of, coming into last week, Ravens had one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Now, they it seemed like they shored it up, but was that them shoring it up, or was that Pittsburgh offense isn't that good? So that'll be interesting to see. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Ravens. I think Lamar pulls it out at the end. I think it's gonna be a back and forth game. Maybe not a shootout per se. Maybe like a 27-24 type game. But yeah, I think Lamar he shows up and he put himself. Most people have taken him out of front runner for MVP, but I think he put himself squarely back in that position.
Good chance to do it with the Bills on the bye. Everything is week to week nowadays with the media. So
right.
I'm gonna go Ravens in this one too. I think they're just a better team than Chargers. Just talent wise, I understand the Chargers are playing very well. And of course being coached very well. But I think this game comes down to just who do you have to make these plays. And I think Lamar will make the plays in this one. I feel pretty confident about it too. I don't really think it'll be that close of a game. But it is a good test for the Chargers. I kind of mentioned a little earlier, coming off that win that they had against the Bengals. But the Ravens are a different monster. I know last week happened, but we still seen what this team can do. So, and plus, they were never going to win against the Steelers. It just is what it is. So, with that matchup.
I'd be willing to bet that they blow the Steelers out later in the season, but we will see.
We'll see.
But I'm rocking with Baltimore. I think we see a game very similar to what we saw on Sunday night. I think the Chargers, their defense still has to shore up some things, even though they've been playing well for most of the season. They have been playing some lower tier offenses. I think that they still have some things to shore up, and we saw that for some reason Cincinnati always seemingly has like wide open receivers, especially Jamar Chase. And it's like, I don't know. So maybe Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens will find some wide open receivers as well. But I do think that we see a big Lamar passing game coming off of a lot of people being like, oh, Derrick Henry didn't run the ball enough. I think that we don't see him run the ball too much and the Ravens win. On another close game, very similar to whatever the Bengals score was last week, 34-27 or something like that. Kind of a shootout. But that gives us a wrap for the picks of the week. I do think the games there's a bunch of like good games, but it's not like spread out throughout last week. It feels like every single game that was played was except for the Falcons game was damn, it's just something. Except for the Lions game as well. But all the rest of the games were, even the Patriots Rams game. I don't know if you guys went back and rewatched that one, but
I did.
That one was a great game. Bengals Ravens obviously.
It's a lot of disparity.
Jets had a comeback
this week as far as
but I also feel like this week games, a lot of them are going to shape up the playoffs in general. Like we mentioned, NFC West, you got one playing the Green Bay, one playing each other, and then one's playing the Eagles. Even with the Chargers and Ravens game, as a Chargers, you really don't want to lose a game and get pushed back a little bit. You might even try to fight for the division if Kansas City happen to lose. Not this week. I mean, they could, but if they happen to lose another game because they got to play them again. So I think this week is a lot of playoff.
I think it's upset week as far as like the 1 and 4 o'clock slate. If you really look at it, you have, of course, like Colts playing the Lions, Bears playing the Vikings. Like these are like the disparity. Cowboys playing the Commanders, Chiefs playing the Panthers, Titans playing the Texans, Raiders playing the Broncos. Very high chance like a couple of those teams fuck around and lose to a lesser team, and I think that's what could make this weekend pretty interesting.
It will be interesting. And I do, we talked about it a couple times today, in passing. I do think that the Cowboys-Washington game will be the number one on a upset alert, if there is one. That one, because the Cowboys really did not play bad against Houston. Offensively, they had one good drive, and if they would have capitalized on that drive, I think everything would have changed.
But it was just the epitome of their season, though. You kick a 64-yard field goal, you make it, penalty, you go down, don't get no damn points. That shit.
then you had that goofy ass play that put the game away. That was crazy. And I get Tyler Guyton. I know the ball fell into your hands. This your shot. Make a play.
No, it's not your shot.
But it is. It's your shot to make a play.
And we didn't. I don't even remember if we talked about it too much. But the Texans, when they played the Lions, and the lineman tried to take the ball out of C.J. Stroud's hand.
Oh yeah. Great. What are you doing,
bruh? I've never seen nothing like that.
He ripped it out his hand.
He was like, "Give me that shit. Come on, I got it.
Give me that shit, bruh." Bruh, I've never seen that before. But and CJ went up to him immediately and was like,
he was like, "Bro, what are you doing?
What are you doing, bro?
I know
like,
that film
don't do that." He's
crazy.
Like, "Don't." That nigga was clapping in his face, like, "Don't do that shit. Like, do not do that."
That was wild.
It's big facts because niggas gonna be like, CJ is trying to pass it to his fucking lineman.
Yeah, that was wild. That was wild.
So,
real.
But man, that gives us a wrap for another episode of Speak Up Sports Podcast. Please catch up with us again next week, and we'll catch you then.
Yes, sir.